Welcome to That's Canon, a podcast talking about the Canon film series and other similar movies. This is episode 38, and I'm your host, Phil.
And I'm Greg.
And today we're going to review Bloody Pom Poms, also
Bloody
known
Pom.
as Cheerleader Camp. Did you know that Bloody Pom Poms was the
I
original name for this?
I did. I looked it up afterwards, and I was so disappointed when I realized that was not the one that they went with in all their posters and everything. It's such a better title.
It is. It is 1,000% a better title. And obviously we'll get into it, but I think despite the movie being set in a cheerleading camp, they didn't capitalize on the camp part of it.
No, yeah, I think we're when we hear like a camp, we're imagining something like a sleepaway camp or Friday the 13th, where where the summer campiness kind of is a part of the plot, but it really doesn't factor in here, which part of one sliver of the disappointment pie that is this movie for me.
What a good way of putting it. Disappointment pie, because you get that nice
secret ingredient is shit.
Yeah, you get that nice flaky outer layer of like it's a horror movie from the 80s.
Yeah. It looks great. It smells good from afar.
Yeah.
But then when you bite into it, there's like broken glass inside.
It's poo-poo. Even the poster is great. Give me a K, give me an I, give me an L, give me an L.
What a great tagline. And then just and part of the nostalgia value for this for me was this is one of those covers that I'm pretty sure I remember seeing in like a Blockbuster or whatever like local video store we used to go to. But the cheerleader, like the skeleton cheerleader jumping up and doing like a rah 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 thing on the cover with all sorts of like little like murder scenes happening in the background. It's just like the perfect VHS nostalgia cover. And again, it looks great from afar, but when you actually watch the movie, it does not live up to the expectations.
It does not. And if you look at it from the director of the movie is John Quinn. Now, this is his first movie, Cheerleader Camp. After this, he like disappeared for almost 20 years, and he's come back. And he's doing things called Passion Cove, Sexy Urban Legends, Forbidden Science, Lingerie, Sin City Diaries.
So is this like Skinamax crap or what?
It sounds like it's Skinamax crap. Because the actors in it aren't real actors.
bunch of no names or washed up actors from the 80s, I guess.
Washed up has-beens, which even this movie, you could almost say it stars pre-has-beens, because one of the main characters is Leif Garrett in it, and he is absolutely abysmal in this movie.
They're not has-beens, they've never beens or about to be
never beens.
So you should tell us why we watched this movie, because it's not a canon movie.
You know what? And it's been so long. Jackie last night asked me while we sat down to watch it. She was like, "Why are we watching this?" And I was like,
"Good question."
I did say that. I was like, "That's a really good question." I kind of like sat there and I was like, "Oh wait, this is Lucinda Dickey's last movie."
Yes, Lucinda Dickey. Yeah, we wanted to round out her more or less her filmography at this point, because we've seen both the Breaking movies at this point.
Yeah,
we've watched Ninja 3 Domination, and this was like this everything? Cheerleader Camp was that everything, or was there like a couple things here and there?
She was Greaser Girl in Grease 2, so don't really need to watch that.
No, she's not a main character.
Exactly. And she has an uncredited role as employee in Perry Mason, The Case of the Defiant Daughter.
Never heard of it.
Exactly.
so we pretty much have seen the parts of a filmography that count.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just say this, I'll just comment on Lucinda Dickey in the film in general, before we really deep dive into this. She is fantastic. I absolutely love her. She looked so fucking bored in this, though.
Yeah, I'll echo that sentiment. Definitely, I would go so far as to say that she was wasted
Oh
in
yeah,
this. It's a
100%.
shame that, I mean, I guess so. I mean, we guess we probably both went into this assuming that she was sort of going to be the main cheerleader, because I knew nothing about this movie before we watched it, and I was shocked to see that she wasn't really the main character.
I would almost say that she was like the fourth side character in it. They
Yeah,
downplayed her so much in this movie.
yeah, but barely. Yeah, like I said, wasted. I mean, she shows up here and there more so towards the end, but yeah, definitely. What was there was great, and which is, I mean, okay, here's the most astounding thing for me. We know from having seen her in Breakin', and she's a dancer in real life, a
Yeah,
talented one, and they cast her as the mascot in a cheerleading movie.
exactly.
What? I mean, we'll get into this, but the cheerleading, wherever we see, I'm no connoisseur, but it's pretty freaking terrible.
It is.
Why would you not have Lucinda Dickey, who is we know is a talented dancer in real life? Why would you not cast her as the lead cheerleader? It makes no sense.
And that's where the problems start and the movie begins, because
Yes.
the movie begins with just a plain placard of cheerleading camp, and then it has the world's most boring intro credits because it's just names over a black background, while the most uninspired synth score is like going through your head. And then it goes to bright red, and they do this transitional bright red thing multiple times throughout the movie. And each time they do it, it hurts.
Ah, you don't like it?
No, I did not like it.
It's one of the few things about the editing in this that I actually really like. It reminds me of what is it, Cabin Fever, that Eli Roth movie, right?
Yeah,
Where they get those kind of crossfades through red. I don't know. There's something old fashioned about it that I like.
it is extremely old fashioned.
Yeah.
But I think maybe it was just a little too bright for me.
Yeah, that bright red.
But the movie starts off in, I'm telling you, Greg, if I wasn't a horror movie connoisseur, you could have told me that this was a Nightmare on Elm Street movie if I walked in on it, because it has Betsy Russell in a locker room, and you just kind of hear creepiness going on.
Yes, it's lit. I mean, you can tell immediately that okay, we're definitely in a dream sequence because
The
the
canted angles.
yeah, the camera, the Dutch angles, and
Yep.
the way that it's lit, and it's kind of smoky, and it's clearly, and even the sound too, you kind of hear like echoing of crowd cheers and chants going in the background, and she's running around lost. Clearly a dream sequence, but you're right. I didn't think of that. It looks like something that's cut straight out of a Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Betsy Russell strips down. You don't see any nudity. Betsy Russell's like a classy woman. And she gets into
Not for cheerleader camp. Hell no.
and she gets into her cheerleading outfit. And as she goes out into the field, she falls into some mud and she starts doing a cheer. And obviously, it's a dream sequence because she sees her mom and her dad in the stands, and they look very disappointed in her.
Yes.
And this is the reason why I would believe that it's a Freddy movie, because all of a sudden she starts getting attacked by the supernatural and she has claw marks start cutting her.
Yeah, it's almost like because we see the pom poms kind of whip by the camera at the same time. It's almost like there's knives in the pom poms, which you don't see, but that's what it kind of looks like it's happening.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of weird, right? Like,
Yeah.
this happens, I think, a couple times throughout the movie, and they don't really explain it.
No. No,
Um,
it's kind of a recurring thing, and I mean, she obviously we're starting in a dream sequence. She'll have a couple more as we go through the movie, but I think we get that weird like invisible slasher thing happening in all of those sequences.
exactly. But Betsy Russell, she is a scream queen of, I I don't want to say epic proportions, and I don't want to downplay her contributions to horror, but she was on the verge of being an amazing scream queen, and she just stopped doing movies, I think, because she just didn't really like doing them anymore.
Yeah.
Betsy Russell was in Cheerleading Camp, Camp Fear, so 2 camp movies here.
Interesting.
She was in Avenging Angel, the sequel to Angel. She took over the lead role. And then she was in Saw 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah. I never saw any of those Saw sequels.
That's where I really learned of Betsy Russell was the Saw films.
Huh.
And I'll say Betsy Russell, she has a very interesting look and demeanor to her. She's a very pretty woman, but she constantly looks upset, even when she's emoting happy. I'm like, wow, she looks really like angry or upset.
Just kind of like her eyes and
It's
eyebrows.
the
Yeah.
eyes and the eyebrows. But yeah, I mean, I like her. I think
That
she's
makes her
great.
that's a perfect cast for a horror movie. I can see why she fits in that genre.
Exactly. As we transition from dream sequence to day, because she's asleep in the back seat of a car, she sees a giant fat guy recording her with a Sony hand camera.
Oh, it wouldn't be a token slasher 80s movie without a funny fat guy, would it? I
I
mean, you just got to have him.
I agree with you. It wouldn't be a horror movie set in a camp without a token fat guy. The issue is the token fat guy isn't that funny.
He really isn't. Geez, not for lack of trying though. This movie really wants us to think he's a funny fat guy, but it just is cringy and awkward and uncomfortable.
Yep. The fat guy's name is Timmy. He's played by Travis McKenna, and he has been credited in Batman Returns as Fat Clown. Uh
Oh, oh.
yeah. He was in Van Wilder as Milty. His whole persona, his whole movie career is built around him being fat.
You have to respect someone who can find a niche and be successful in it. It's a shame that that's the niche that he found,
Yeah,
but good for you for being able to capitalize on it, I guess.
exactly. But then we get an establishing shot of all of the other women that are in the film. The only other one that's notable is Lucinda Dickey,
Woo!
who plays Corey Foster. Now, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you know who Lucinda Dickey is, and we already talked about her. So let's keep going forward as we're also introduced to Brent Hoover, who plays Betsy Russell's boyfriend.
Yes.
Brent is played by Leif Garrett, a has-been of epic proportions who's been in jail for drugs more times than Robert Downey Jr., but never hit it big again.
Where's his Iron Man moment?
Exactly. This guy was huge in the 70s. He was a singer. He had multiple records, and he starred in the Walking Tall film series in the 70s. So this guy was, by all accounts, really popular.
So he was the name recognition for this then.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%. He was the draw for it. But as they start driving down the road, you know, they're all kind of, I guess, and this is the really hard part about the movie. They're just idly talking about like the dance contest or the cheerleading contest that they're about to embark on, and getting to the camp.
It's kind of confusing. Yeah, they're like in this big 15-passenger van. They're all chit-chatting. We don't really know. I mean, I feel like I've had this same confusion through the whole movie. But like, is it a camp, or is it like a competition, or is it like are they going there to train? It's not really clear like what they're going to do.
Exactly.
And you get kind of both. Honestly, I take that back. You get nothing, because when they're actually at the camp later, no one's really ever doing anything until this competition at the end. They're all just kind of standing around loitering in the front lawn.
Exactly. That is the biggest problem with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
They're acting like it's a camp, but they're also talking about a competition. When they pull up to the cheerleading camp, there are people doing cheers. It's obviously like multiple cheerleading teams that are going to this camp. So it's really confusing. Are they there to compete against these people? But they also make it sound like there's something that they're training for back at home.
Yeah, because in this van scene early on, they talk about there's like a state or like a regionals or something that they're trying to train for.
Regional.
some kind of regional
That always makes me think of
community.
Community.
Yeah.
We're training for regionals. What does that even mean?
What is regionals? Yeah, well, it definitely applies here too, because it's really undefined what their whole competitive landscape is, like what they're doing here. Are they training? Is it a competition? They make it seem, and I have no idea how long they're supposed to be here. Is it like a whole summer, or is it just like a weekend? It's not really talked about.
I don't know, because there's certain things that happen in the beginning of the movie that make me think that this is supposed to be something that happens for quite some time. And
Yeah.
we'll eventually get there. But so as our cavalcade of cheerleaders and fat guy pull up to the cheerleading camp, we get introduced to the the camp counselor, like the sole camp counselor, right? There's no other
Yeah.
camp counselor.
Yeah, no, there's really very few employees in general, but yeah,
There's-
the one lady, the kind of like the head cheerleading camp lady. I remember no characters' names in this. So you're gonna have to help me out with that.
Miss Tipton,
Miss Tipton. Okay.
played by Vicky Benson, who this is her second to last film credit. The last one was called Fertilizing the Blaspheming Bombshell.
Oh, a classic.
That's a mouthful. She was also in something called Mortuary Academy. But as Miss Tipton is coming forward, the fat guy plays on his fat guy sensibilities and sticks his giant lard ass out the window.
This is so I was watching this with my wife Becky too, and this was the first time she piped up during the film. She's just like, ew, no.
Yeah.
You know why.
As he sticks his butt out the window, Leif Garrett pushes him and he gets stuck in place. Somehow, Miss Tipton, despite doing roll call right next to the van, is unaware of this giant bulbous white ass next to her until it farts.
Because, of course, fart humor. It's
exactly.
just classic.
It's because he's fat, guys.
Get it?
And like, I get it. I think still movies kind of pick on the fat person, right? And they're kind of the butt of the joke. But it's not nearly as bad as it was in the 80s, where the fat character's entire personality is defined as he's fat.
Yeah, it's like one of three things, usually a mix of all three. He's fat, he likes to eat, and he's lecherous in some way.
Exactly.
That's
and
it.
This guy does all three.
All three.
But as Miss Tipton is giving roll call, everyone, announces that they're there, but she forgets Corey, because Corey isn't a cheerleader. She's a mascot, and mascots are looked down in this world. They are not even second-class citizens. They're like fourth-class citizens.
Gutter trash. What? So, I mean, this is where I actually wrote in my notes. This is Corey is Lucinda Dickey's character, by the way. This is I wrote in my notes like, wait, Lucinda Dickey is the mascot? Boo!
Exactly.
It dawned on me that they didn't make the professional dancer a cheerleader in this movie. And I mean, let's talk about this for a second. This whole idea of, okay, they're going to a cheerleading camp / competition. That's already confusing enough.
Yes.
Why are there mascots here? That's not a thing that happens, is it?
That's not a cheerleader thing. No.
I would almost say that the mascot's probably more associated with like the marching band.
Exactly.
If anything.
100%. Totally agree with
very
you.
confusing.
Also, and I guess I'll go there. While all the women in this movie are attractive, Lucinda Dickey is more attractive than the other three cheerleaders. Like, she's on par with Betsy Russell. Betsy Russell's supposed to be like the very pretty one, right?
Yeah.
So again, this sounds so horrible, but if you had to rank them, Lucinda Dickey and Betsy Russell would be at the top. And so I don't even get it. I don't get that Lucinda Dickey would be like the ugly one or the homely one, which they try to play it off as.
That's what makes her casting as the mascot character all the more confusing, because again, it does sound kind of shallow, but like when you cast this like kind of the underdog character, or kind of like the weirdo, the nerd, the outcast, you go with someone with like a more like less conventionally attractive look, but they cast Lucinda Dickey, who, like you said, is really pretty.
Yeah,
Prettier than a lot of the other women who they cast as the cheerleaders. It is so confusing why you would cast it this way. She's not. It makes her not believable as the weirdo nerd outcast mascot.
100%. 100%.
Very weird.
But we progress through the movie because we didn't get to make this. As all the cheerleaders kind of walk away, Betsy Russell gets this very intense look on her face. And that's when we get introduced to Pop, who's played by George Buck Flower.
Yes.
Now, if the fat guy got his career off of being fat guy, Buck here gets his career off of being the homeless guy.
See, I don't remember him as homeless guys though. I remember him as the vaguely homophobic cop from Tammy and the T-Rex.
Yes. You are 100% correct. That is, I think, in our circle, what he is 100% known for.
Most known for, yeah. But he's got a very distinctive voice too. That really, like, I'm not sure where he's from originally. Like, very like token Southern accent. Great voice. You recognize it immediately.
He has 9 credits as Bum. He has 6 credits as Homeless Man.
Not to be confused with Bum.
Exactly. He's been in so many movies. They Live, Back to the Future, Starman, Village of the Damned, Wishmaster. Like, the list goes on. He is truly the actor out of all of these actors.
Yeah. Really great to see him in this. A nice character actor addition.
Exactly. If Dick Miller is the number 1, that guy, this guy is the number 2.
It does seem logical to put them in the same sentence. I would, definitely put him under Dick Miller for sure. But he's definitely up there. You're always happy to see Buck Flower when he shows up.
Exactly. He introduces himself to Betsy Russell, and he's going to help her with her bags because she looks a little tired. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, this guy isn't super creepy, even though he's a dirty old man.
It's Buck Flower.
Exactly. Betsy Russell's boyfriend immediately runs off to the other cheerleaders and starts smoozing and greasing elbows and hitting on everything that has a pulse.
Really strange. And again, like right in front of his girlfriend.
Yeah.
She's like 10 feet away on the other side of the lawn. It's really bizarre.
She even makes a comment on it, like, oh my God, he's already out there flirting with everyone.
Worst boyfriend ever.
Exactly. So, and this is where the other big problem of the movie is, because Leif Garrick's character starts talking about like the cheerleader queen. Like, someone's going to be
that's right,
crowned cheerleader queen. And that's why he's kind of like schmoozing with people.
As if this whole plot isn't confusing enough. Like, what are they doing there? It's a cheerleading camp. It's a cheerleading competition. It's a mascot competition. And now it's also kind of like a beauty pageant, I guess, or like a homecoming queen thing with this whole, the whole cheerleading queen. It's so confusing. You'd have no idea what they're actually all doing there, but apparently it's all of the above.
It's all of the above. That's when all the girls start breaking off into their bunks. You have the 3 no-name cheerleaders all bunked together, which is a horrible idea because you never really get to know them because they're side characters. You just know that one's really nice, one's really bitchy, and the other one's just kind of there.
There's 2 brunettes, the blonde, she's the really nice one.
Yeah.
And then there's the 2 kind of like vaguely meanish girls. There's the one really mean girl who's like, obviously they're setting up to be evil antagonist cheerleader, and then her kind of crony.
Exactly.
Brunette, yeah.
But in the other cabin, you get Betsy Russell. She's secretly taking some kind of medication. And then Lucinda Dickey comes in, and you can kind of tell that they have some kind of friendship, but it seems almost like Betsy Russell is giving pity to Lucinda Dickey for some reason. Like it's that kind of friendship where she just tolerates her.
there's definitely something weird going on between these two characters. At this point, Becky and I were speculating heavily. Um, we weren't sure if it was like a jealousy thing or if it was like a protectiveness or some kind of other. I mean, this would be very progressive for the 80s if like Lucinda Dickey was in love with this girl for some reason,
You know what?
or there's some kind of like actual like relationship there or something.
I thought it was going to be some kind of unrequited love angle where
Yeah,
Lucinda Dickey was infatuated with Betsy Russell.
that would have been that was my first instinct also, and that would have been really a really interesting twist. But again, I feel like that would have been too progressive to have ever happened in an 80s movie.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I'm sure there are exceptions that I'm not thinking of, but in a sleazy like C-list slasher knockoff, hell no.
Yeah. You got to get one of those blue movies.
Those blue movies. Boy, as a reference, no one's gonna understand.
Then we cut to Leif Garrett and I don't want to just call him fat guy for the entire film. What's his actual name? It was Travis. So
I have to admit this up front. Near the end of the movie, this is kind of a big tangent, but Becky and I were trying to we were coming up with other like vaguely meanish names for him related to his size. We came up with some funny ones.
Let's hear it.
First, the first one that we called him through most of the movie was Big Cheer.
Big Cheer.
Then it just devolved into Cheerleader.
I like that.
And then the other one was Rah Rah Roast Beef.
Rah Rah Roast Beef. I'll call him Cheerleader.
Cheerleader, okay. Please, we've already just lost half of our audience now.
Exactly.
We're not mean people. We're not fat shaming. I promise.
It's just so damn funny. So Leif Garrett and Cheerleader are unpacking, and they start talking about. They bring up the video camera again, and Cheerleader is talking about how he wants to videotape the women. So we cut to. Obviously, we would cut immediately to a new character that we've never seen, looking through,
of course,
through binoculars at all the cheerleaders sunbathing. And it's so odd because all of the women are just posed up on rocks. It's not believable at all that they would be posed like this.
No, yeah, it's like they're not just sunbathing casually; they are posed seductively on rocks.
Yeah,
in perfect view of the like army of peeping toms who are all hiding in the trees and bushes.
Exactly. And so there's a cop that's peeping, and then there's a fat thing peeping as well. At first I was like, is he wearing lipstick? But all the other women start referring to the thing in the bushes as a woman, so it was kind of weird.
They pay no mind,
yeah. They start taking off their tops. There's boobs. It wouldn't be an 80s horror movie without it.
Yeah, this is kind of weird. Like, so first there's like the one unnamed blonde girl. I think she's like, I don't think they give her a name. I don't even think she talks at all. But like the mean girl is like staring at her. She's like, she thinks she's so pretty. She's like my main competition for cheer queen.
Yeah.
And when the blonde girl takes her top off, mean girl, she takes that as a challenge and then takes her own top off. It was a really strange motivation. It's almost like they're like competitive toplessness.
It is extremely weird. As they get topless, the overweight woman comes out, and it actually is Cheerleader in drag. The cheerleaders rip his clothes off, and for some reason, despite wearing a dress, he also has a brassiere on.
Oh yeah, he went the extra mile in this peeping Tom disguise.
Meanwhile, the cop gets interrupted by Buck, who is, I mean, this is your quote of the week right here, right?
Yeah, I'll say it now because it's hilarious and it really does, as do most of the quotes of the week, sets a tone for the rest of the movie. and specifically how you feel. So he's like, this filthy cop is peeping on these teenagers through binoculars, and Buckflower sneaks up behind him. He's like, they're like kind of giving him shit for it. And the cops, make some offhanded comments like, "Oh, I'm protecting these girls, and I'm doing this in the line of duty." And Buckflower says, "Line of duty, my ass. Line of dirty is more like it." Oh, it's so perfect.
It's one of the few lines that definitely got an audible laugh out of me in this movie.
A good solid chuckle for sure. And like I said, line of dirty, that's how you feel watching the rest of this. Is it's just sleazy.
It is sleazy. And it's sleazy without, I don't know. Well, we'll just keep going. But
we'll see.
It definitely has peaks and valleys, but there's more valleys. I think the valley just keeps going down, and when you get like a little bump, that's like the peak.
There you go. Just Grand Canyon.
But we go back to the cheerleading camp, and Miss Tipton is instructing all the different cheerleaders on how to do cheer stuff. And then we get another bright red fadeaway, and we see Betsy Russell. She's waking up in her bunk, and she's envisioning Leif Garrett talking to the pretty blonde woman.
Right, their competition.
Their direct competition. Betsy Russell goes outside of her bunk and for some reason goes into the blonde woman's bunk, where she finds her dead, almost as if she killed herself because her wrists are slit.
Yes. And I think she's got some blood coming out of her mouth too, which is odd.
That I did find that part really odd. Buck shows up and it's kind of like, what's the problem? And he sees the dead body and he's unfazed by it. Probably because you see a lot of dead bodies when you're homeless.
I was gonna say when you're a cheerleading camp counselor.
In the mix here, because now we have Buck, Miss Tipton. We also have a cook, a chef.
Cookie.
Is that his name? Cookie?
That's just what I called him the whole time. Cookie.
Oh, okay. He is. I'm just going to spoil it right now. He's inconsequential to the entire plot. This guy has no lines. He does absolutely nothing in the entire film. Beyond being a red herring, he does nothing.
His job is to stand in the background of scenes and look menacing and creepy and make you think that he might be a murderer because he carries around like a meat cleaver the whole time.
Exactly. So spoilers for this really average movie.
Yes. Before we move too far off this, I have to say, so we cut after we get that fade through red, and we're in another dream sequence, right? But then we transition right away to real life. Like I thought she was imagining this girl's dead body, then other characters walk in. It's like, wait, we're not in the dreams. Like there was no transition out of that dream sequence. It was really jarring.
It is, and I 100% agree with you. I don't get I don't get what they were going for.
Yeah, no, completely inexplicable.
It's like they went to like the eighth wall. Like we went into a dream sequence, but then we transitioned right back into reality without waking up, and it just kind of breaks all the walls of the movie. And it gets
you need some kind of like hard cut where she sees something and then you cut back to her face and then you switch back and it's not there anymore.
Yep.
Some kind of like moment or sound or visual change that tells us that the dream is done. We don't get that. Like, I guess maybe when she opened the door to the cabin, it was a hidden transition.
They hit it really well.
Yeah. I don't know.
As they inspect the dead body, because Buck and the cookie are inspectors, they kind of fondle her necklace. They make sure that you see it too, because it's like an S with a cheerleading bullhorn. With a cheerleading bullhorn thing.
Phil just threw up in his mouth a little bit. Yeah. Filthy and terrible this movie is.
So they want to make sure that you see it.
It's like a what is the right word for that? What that thing is, like a megaphone?
Megaphone, bullhorn.
Bullhorn. I don't know.
Megaphone.
One of those cone thingies that they shot through.
It amplifies the sounds.
That's the thing.
And later that night, Miss Tipton gathers all the girls and the fat guy to the lodge where she talks about suicide and how everyone has inner demons, blah blah blah. And we see Buck and Cookie wrap the body up in like plastic wrap, and they're carting it away. But we don't see necessarily where.
Yeah, why are they handling this dead body? Like, why did they not call the cops?
They kind of say it in a little bit.
Oh, do they? Did I
Yeah.
miss that explanation? Okay.
Don't worry, they said it in like a second. But then we see
Okay.
all the cheerleaders in their bunks. They're kind of talking about the suicide. But when they get to the guys, they're watching the videotape of the naked cheerleaders that the fat guy recorded. All right. So now this brings me to like something that I've noticed about 80s movies that I want to kind of bring up.
Okay.
All right. So you watched Angel, which is a Vinegar Syndrome movie.
Yes. Great
This
one.
movie, Cheerleader Camp, is obviously they're high school students, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this doesn't spoil anything, but the Fear Street 1994 movie, they're high school students, right?
Right.
Now, all of these actors, actresses are older than high school age.
I would say that's probably pretty normal. They would cast someone maybe in their 20s or something for as a high school student.
But isn't it weird when they sexualize high schoolers?
Yes. Yes, it is. And it's like the only thing that makes it slightly less awkward is because you as the viewer know that they're not actually underage in real life.
Yeah.
But that's like that's not that doesn't help a whole lot. Like you shouldn't have to rely on outside the movie knowledge to not be weirded out by what's going on in the movie.
Exactly. I think what makes Friday the 13th work from like I'm not creeped out by the nudity is that they're just camp counselors. I don't know if they're in school, but you can assume just by based off their age and how they act, they're definitely not high schoolers. They're also drinking beer, so we know they're
at least over 18 in the 80s. So
exactly. So there's not like this is weird because they're still in high school. Why are we seeing these people naked and like fornicating? But when you watch something like Nightmare on Elm Street or even Halloween in some cases, because the first one they're in high school, you see like boobs, they're having sex, and you're kind of like, why are we doing this? I get that that's what high schoolers do, but from the aspect of being titillated, I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing.
It leads to definitely mixed reaction because they're going for like a sexual thing. It's like, okay, yeah, that's the, like you said, the titillating. That's what they're trying to do. But then at the same time, like your higher brain functions like, wait a second, these people are supposed to be in high school, and you're like, ugh, you immediately feel weird for having any kind of reaction whatsoever to what you're seeing.
Exactly.
Such a strange thing that we've just kind of accepted in movie history at this point.
And I think as when you're a kid or you're younger and you're watching this, it doesn't matter because like you're the same age, it's okay, and you're just like, oh, boobs. But
it's different when you're contemporary versus now when we're adults, fully grown men.
Yeah.
It's the weirdness. And I feel like it's only going to get weirder the older we get.
There you go. It's only get weirder the older you get. But anyways, we keep moving forward. Betsy Russell and Lucinda Dickey, they're getting ready for, going to bed. And they're talking about like the cheerleading queen, the competition, and they're talking about how Lucinda Dickey is the mascot. And then Lucinda Dickey's giving a lot of compliments towards Betsy Russell about how pretty she is and how confident she is and how she's the best cheerleader. So again, you can see that like unrequited love angle, but it just doesn't happen because there's a lot of longing looks from Lucinda Dickey.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we were, like I said before, as we were watching early on, Becky and I were kind of, trying to like, we were speculating out loud, like, okay, like, trying to solve the movie before we saw it because, these movies are usually pretty predictable anyway. But at this point, I was almost sure that they were going to go for an unrequited love, like you said, because of, like you said, all of this, the longing looks that Lucinda Dickey gives to the main character, and is like, wow, like, are they actually going to do it? I was about to be surprised and impressed with the movie if they had committed to it.
Yep.
But alas, as we'll
Alas, they
learn.
didn't. Alas, as Lucinda Dickey leaves the bathroom, Betsy Russell gets a vision of her face draped in blood, and she's either freaking out or really loving it, depending on how you want to interpret the scene.
Her facial expression, yeah, it's she doesn't exactly look horrified. You're
She
right.
almost
It's
looks
kind of
turned
ambiguous.
on. Um,
Ooh, that Freddy Krueger look.
exactly. We get a very hard cut to the day where we see Cheerleader and Leaf Garrett doing the world's worst rap.
Oh God, a rap. It's you can feel the approach of the early 90s when they start adding awkward, annoying raps
Yeah.
into movies.
The rap doesn't rhyme, it doesn't really flow that well, but they're rapping about all
No.
the cheerleaders in the squad, and Buck is so turned on watching the cheerleaders that he can't handle fixing a sprinkler and he gets wet.
It's just because
That's the joke.
it's almost like it's like a Three Stooges bit
Yeah.
is what it looks like. It just like comically like awkward. Actually, you know what it looks like? It looks like a scene from an infomercial about some new hose attachment.
100%.
Like the black and white part where there's someone like struggling to put on an attachment and they just get water all over themselves and they look at the camera like, "Aw."
Oh, yeah.
That's what Buck Flower does, just shy of looking at the camera.
And then we cut to all the mascots where it looks like they got all of their mascot stuff from, Mascots Are Us. All of these costumes look cookie cutter store bought bullshit.
Very generic,
And
yeah.
they're trying to eat lunch through their masks, which at first I thought like this is kind of a weird bonding thing, but it's actually Miss Tipton is forcing them to eat with their costumes on so they can be a part of the costume.
Yeah, I thought it was just like a comedy thing. Like we were meant to laugh at it as like, oh, mascot people are really into it, but it was almost as if it was like a training exercise. Like to be a real mascot, you got to learn to eat a baguette for your mask. Like
Exactly.
what?
Super weird that the camp counselor is razzing the students.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's because she gives Lucinda Dickey a real hard time because she couldn't eat that baguette through the giant so her mascot is like a giant lizard or an alligator, right? And she
Yeah.
was trying to like shove a loaf of bread through the alligator mask's like mouth and failing at it, I guess. And she takes the head off and looks really disappointed and yeah, just gets shit on by the head counselor for not being able to do that.
Huh.
I don't get
Weird.
it.
It's so weird.
When are mascots eating in the middle of a football game?
Why is the counselor so mean towards the mascot people?
I don't. Why are the mascots even there? There's nothing but questions.
Exactly.
Unanswered questions.
We transition over to Betsy Russell, and she's with one of the blonde cheerleaders, and they're kind of practicing and doing stuff. And then Leaf Garrett shows up. He talks about absolutely nothing, and then Betsy Russell goes to leave to get a soda. As she enters the kitchen of the cheerleading camp, she sees Cookie the chef, and he's wearing the necklace of the dead girl. And he's chopping up something on a slab.
Some kind of meat.
Betsy asks for a soda, and he just points towards the fridge. It's a walk-in refrigerator, too.
The scary murder fridge?
Yeah. As Betsy Russell enters the murder fridge and she's looking around to get a soda, she instead takes a drink of opened milk. Because there's nothing better to drink on a hot summer day than milk.
Milk. This was a major like WTF moment for me. I actually wrote that down in my notes. Like, what the hell? Like, she asked for a soda, walks into the fridge, and just grabs a random carton of milk that has no cap on it, and just starts drinking it right from the jug.
Yeah.
Well, what is happening?
I don't know. It's super weird.
I go for Coke when you get a nice cold milk on a summer day, like you said. Ugh.
As she's strengthening her bones through this ice cold milk, she leans on the shelf and it immediately crumbles. And the dead body of the cheerleader that we saw earlier in the movie falls from the shelf. Cookie the chef enters with his hatchet and then immediately leaves.
What was that? Oh, never mind.
Betsy Russell calls the cops because she's a smart person. As she's hanging up the phone, Buck is there and he starts acting creepy. He's like, hey, now, we have a phone in the office that you can use. You don't have to run all the way out here to use it. Really weird. Really weird. The sheriff, though, has now arrived. The sheriff earlier was peeping on all the cheerleaders.
Yep.
Same guy. And he's talking to Miss Tipton about the dead body. Now, this is the part where the sheriff goes pointedly, why didn't you report the body? And Miss Tipton says, I was afraid that if you came and took the body, you'd close down the camp and we need the money.
It's that part reminded me of now that I remember that part now, and it reminded me of there's I think a line like that in Sleepaway Camp where he's like trying to keep all the murders quiet because he doesn't want the camp to shut down. I actually kind of appreciate that. Like that's a good slasher movie. Like the logic makes no sense, but I like that the counselors are so like short-sighted and selfish enough that they try to keep it quiet.
Yeah. Kind of weird, but yeah, I do like the idea that maybe all these that Buck, the chef, and Miss Tipton are all in cahoots on hiding the death of this girl. But all I could think of is from a parent perspective is at the end of the cheerleading camp, when it's over, like weeks, maybe months later, and then you go, yeah, your child died at the beginning of it, but we just never told you.
We just didn't tell you.
I would fucking sue the shit out of that place.
Can you imagine? Yeah, I like more the idea that the camp just ended and no one told the parents, like they just forgot. And like, oh yeah, my daughter didn't come home. Where is she? Oh yeah, she died. Yeah. Sorry.
That's
She's in the fridge if you want her.
Kind of weird, but
it's one of those kind of goofy slasher movie tropes that it's just kind of fun and goofy.
It is definitely goofy. And it gets goofier as Miss Tipton and the sheriff go to her bunk. And the sheriff's like, hey, don't worry, baby. I'll protect you from the dead body that you didn't report. And Miss Tipton seductively saunters off and gets into a cheerleading costume. But meanwhile, Cheerleader is outside of their cabin. And he's dressed in like camo, not camo, but like maybe
it's
like
a spy
stealth
gear
suit, right? But he's so fucking fat that he ain't hiding from anything.
It's also like broad daylight still, so he's wearing his all black outfit, but it's like 3:00 in the afternoon, so he's just getting blasted with sun. He's not hiding from anybody.
He also has a periscope that he's using in conjunction with his camera to record the antics of what's going inside of Miss Tipton's cabin, which is the sheriff and Miss Tipton having sex. I will say this: there's a quick flash of Miss Tipton on her back, legs straight up in the air, underwear showing, and I was like, "Wow, that's that." I don't know why. I was just really shocked by that like flash of a scene. I was like, I can't believe they did that,
even though she wasn't nude.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think that it was more revealing than anything. Like presenting yourself to this creepy old sheriff.
It's peeping Tom cop. Ugh.
Yeah.
I guess I guess you were probably your subconscious was creeped out by the implication of what was going on, because the other really creepy part about this whole thing is that she dressed up in a cheerleader's outfit in kind of like a like she's dressing up to look a lot younger, like she was a high school girl.
Yeah.
It was really, really weird, creepy undertones.
Yep.
That's what your subconscious was reacting to that. It's like, why do I feel gross and sick inside?
Exactly.
That's why.
But Cheerleader is absolutely loving it. Then we cut to back to the boys' cabin where Leif Garrett is stuffing his underwear to make his moose knuckle look bigger.
Got to get that male bulge enhancement.
And that's the scene. That's just the scene. And then we cut to Betsy Russell. She's doing some more investigative sleuth stuff. And she finds Buck's creepy tool shed. There's a lot
of... What was that? Was it like... Is Buck Flower the groundskeeper? Because for a while I thought he was also like he has some like administrative duties at this camp. His whole job is really, aside from him having the hose accident, you're really not sure what his job is.
I think he's just kind of like the overall like fixer upper dude for the camp.
The handyman, yeah.
But the investigation scene is absolutely nothing because Betsy Russell finds nothing in there, despite there being a little bit of a scare moment because because Buck comes in and Betsy has to hide, but nothing happens.
Yeah. Which why I mean, I guess you don't know why she's really doing that. Like, does she suspect that he's the murderer? Is she trying to figure out who is? Like, does she suspect foul play in the other girl's death? Because everyone thinks it's just a suicide still at this point, right?
I think it's because she saw the chef wearing the necklace. She suspects foul play.
But then why wouldn't she be snooping around in the kitchen? And why does she suspect Buck Flower is involved in this?
I don't know. Maybe because he's creepy too. Maybe she thinks they're in cahoots.
Yeah, I guess. The fact that we don't know, we're having to speculate and make stuff up on behalf of the movie, that just goes to show how confusing all of the people's motivation is in this movie.
100%. But yeah, so and then there's a quick flash scene of Leif Garrett doing cheerleading stuff, and he's with the mean brunette, and he has her hoisted up above her head. She goes, "Why aren't you looking at my crotch?" And he was like, "Oh, because I don't want to be mean." And she's like, "I want you to look at my crotch," and that's the scene.
And that's it. Just so forward.
Yeah. And then it's the evening time. All the women are primping and getting ready for, I guess, the evening of being inside of another fucking cabin. And there's a quick again, it's just a lot of series of really quick, inconsequential scenes that leads up to all the girls being in front of Miss Tipton as Miss Tipton's talking about spirit and cheer. Buck is getting ready for something on the VCR, and Fatty Magoo connects his video camera up to it. So the footage that's going to play now is coming out of Fatty Magoo's VHS tape recorder. As Buck hits play, it's video of Miss Tipton and the sheriff railing each other.
And then is this the part where we get the peeping Tom cop? He says touchdown.
I think Buck says touchdown or something like that.
Oh God. So one of the interesting things that I noticed here, and it was the case earlier. I went back and watched it. The footage that we see on the TV screen, like the footage that we see coming out of his handy cam, is the same footage that we get through the film camera that's shooting the movie.
How lazy.
So I always notice that in movies when they do that, where like we're supposed to be seeing like security camera footage, but it's like nicely edited close-ups that we the audience saw like not 2 minutes ago. You're right. It's just so lazy. Like, would it have killed them to shoot? Like, they clearly had a handy cam. Why not just shoot some like shaky handheld footage through the window and put that on the TV instead? It would have taken 2 seconds. I don't know. Nitpick, but I always notice it.
It's extremely lazy.
Yeah.
But we get another dream sequence here, another red flash as Betsy Russell is walking next to a decrepit cabin. As she gets inside, she sees the mean brunette having sex with Leif Garrett while Cookie, the sheriff, Buck are all watching.
And cheering.
And
They're
cheering.
Like doing a cheer sequence for the banging that's going on, I guess.
Exactly. We cut back to present day morning. All the girls are doing cheerleading stuff, and there's some strife amongst the women as Betsy messed up. It's just kind of weird. And then we cut to the fat guy getting naked again and jumping into the water, and they're all swimming. Leif Garrett is smoozing with other women, and Betsy doesn't like it. And it's just really weird.
Yeah, again, all in full view of his supposed girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like, she sees him go off with Mean Girl.
Uh, mean girl, meanwhile, she starts going into the woods as she's going to walk back to the camp. And as she's walking, she gets a pair of garden shears through the back of her head and they come out the front of her mouth. And I was like, damn, that looked good.
Yeah, it kind of came out of left field because everything that we've seen this so far has been kind of cheap and lazy, and this isn't the kind of movie that I was expecting to have any kind of cool kills or cool makeup effects or anything like that. But wow, did that hedge trimmer through the back of the neck kill look really cool? Because it the point the ends of the blade, the pointed ends, kind of come out through her mouth a little bit, and you can see the handle kind of sticking out the back. It was just really well done. I was not expecting it.
Exactly. It looked really good. Then we get another red flash again.
Yes.
Betsy is dreaming. She picks up her pom poms and she's walking into the woods and she sees the mean girl and Leif Garrett kissing and schmoozing. And she uses the pom poms in a vicious attack and cuts her up.
Another one of those like Wolverine claw attacks like we got earlier on in the movie.
Betsy wakes up and right in front of her is Lucinda Dickey in the alligator costume and she starts screaming. I would too.
Oh my God. It's just like right up in her face too. And
Yeah.
why she still has the mask on at that point, I have no idea.
You
It's
gotta
jump scare.
you gotta know it's gonna creep her out. And
Yeah.
maybe that's what Lucinda Dickey was going for though.
Yeah, I guess so.
But they start talking and Betsy Russell, she's about to take some pills. These pills, we don't know what they're for. Right?
No, yeah, this is the second time we've seen them. And I guess at this point, I mean, there's also been some kind of throwaway lines about her dreams. Like other people in the camp seem to know that she has bad dreams. And I guess maybe these are like antidepressants or antipsychotics of some kind that she's been forgetting to take because and that's why she's getting these dreams now. And Lucinda Dickey is like trying to convince her that she doesn't need them, which is strange.
And this is why you could also, you know, convince me if I didn't know better that this could have been a nightmare movie.
Oh,
Right?
that's right. Isn't that like a thing in later Friday or Nightmare on Elm Street movies where like there's like a special drug that they give kids in town to
Yeah.
not dream, right?
Hypnosil.
Hypnosil, yes. Is that the third one where that comes up? The Dream
It
Warriors?
does. Yeah, Dream
Yeah.
Warriors.
What a great movie. Can we talk? Let's just talk about those.
I know, right? It
Cheerleader Camp.
it's a more coherent plot than Cheerleading Camp. Cheerleading Camp
Yeah.
is just like 1 minute scenes strung together. Uh, but we're back into the main cabin where all the mascots are dancing and acting like assholes. Betsy Russell gets a flashback, some PTSD flashback as she sees all the mascots. And so they start doing a like who wins, and they're gonna choose the winner based off of cheers. And Miss Tipton is going up and down the row, and she gives it to a chicken.
The chicken, yeah, like the generic looking chicken mascot. It's okay. This is another thing that really kind of confused the hell out of me about this whole camp situation. If this is some kind of mascot competition, right? Why would you score it or award the winners based on that cheesy like who gets the loudest cheers from the audience?
I
Wouldn't
because
wouldn't
I
or shouldn't there be some kind of like a judging rubric like they do for gymnastics and figure skating? Like it just seems so loose. I don't know. It just bugged the hell out of me.
because Miss Tipton doesn't care about mascots.
I get yeah, that's just the level of contempt that she has for the mascotting art.
Yep. And Lucinda Dickey is pissed that she didn't win.
Yes. Yes, she is.
She should be pissed that she's the mascot of the movie. But anyways, Miss Tipton, it brings forth some of the cheerleaders based off of no criteria at all, and they start doing another like applaud for the
For the winner.
cheerleading queen, and they award it to the nice blonde woman.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, okay, that
The-
happened.
One of the characters who's no one has talked about as being like in competition for it. Yeah, you would think that they would give it to the mean girl or one of the main characters who we've gotten to know in some way. But no, just who is basically just a side character. They give it to her.
Yep. And now one of the other surviving brunettes of the crew runs out into the woods because she's upset. Meanwhile, Buck is getting a gun for some reason. We don't know why. Uh, Lucinda Dickey is going off into the woods to look for the brunette. Uh, it again, the movie just starts to divulge, and
Yeah, I
but
think they're trying too hard at this
yeah,
point to keep all of the red herrings alive. Because yeah, you see the weird flash of Buck Flower getting the gun. You see Lucinda Dickey and the sidekick brunette. They all run out to go look for the mean girl who's missing at this point, been missing for hours. They're trying too hard to have all the red herrings be out of sight at the same time so that they try to keep us guessing. But it confuses us in the process.
exactly. Uh, so Buck and Leaf, Lucinda Dickey, and Betsy Russell, they all meet up in the woods. They start talking about how there's girls missing. Meanwhile, Fatty Magoo is back in the main area, and now there's a rock band playing for some reason.
like like a heavy metal band. These
Yeah,
guys look, yeah, they look like Metallica or Anthrax or something. They do not look like a band who would be hired to play at a cheerleading camp dance social.
exactly.
Really weird choice.
But everyone's dancing and having a great time. Leaf, Garrett, and the gang show back up. They try to warn people that there's a potential murderer and that there's people missing, but Miss Tipton and the other cheerleaders don't really care at this point. Um, but Miss Tipton goes out into the woods and she's trying to help look for one of the people. It doesn't really matter. She gets stabbed. It looks like she's having an orgasm, like an uncontrollable orgasm, because she just starts spasming in the
She
woods.
just really likes walking in the woods at night.
Yeah.
Just really does it for her. Because,
Uh
but yeah, you're right. Like we see her kind of like she walks in between two trees and she's looking around, and then you just hear her go do like that, like, "Ugh," and but you don't see what something like hit her in the back, but you don't see what it is, and then they just cut away before that happens.
you don't see her get hit. You don't see hear the thud of the hit. You don't see anything. You just hear
No,
and she starts spasming.
yeah, you just see the reaction, which is confusing.
But she eventually catches up to Betsy Russell, where Betsy Russell takes the hatchet that the cook had out of her back, and she falls dead. But Lucinda
Bum, bum,
Dickey's there
bum.
to console her. As Leaf Garrett enters the scene, she finds the dead body of Miss Tipton and runs back to the main cabin and warns everyone, "Hey, there's a killer on the loose."
People be dying.
Um, he's like, "Everyone, be calm. Exit." Everyone just starts bolting for it. The thing that made me laugh about this scene, though, is as the cook jumps into his car, he throws in a bucket of dishes with it too.
He did. I noticed that too. Cookie is like making off with a bunch of cooking equipment and then just cheesing it.
Yep.
But see, like that's the really like that's fun on its own. But it's what an unceremonious way to
Get rid of
take
a red
away,
herring.
yeah, get rid of one of your red herrings because like they did so much work to make him look ominous and creepy and as like a potential and like Miss Tipton getting killed with the meat cleaver. Like they set all that up and then he just like peels out with a couple pots and pans and then he's just gone. You never see him again.
Bye.
Bye. And
Ah,
I guess they got so many red herrings they just couldn't be bothered to have a satisfying conclusion for any of them.
exactly. Meanwhile, the fat guy and Leaf Garrett, they're in the woods. They think that they found the bad guy. So the fat guy starts recording himself and he's like loving it. It almost insinuates that he's about to crank down in front of the camera at one point.
Yeah,
Do you
what
remember that?
I do. I asked like wait, like are we gonna get like a weird masturbation scene? He just all pent up from all watching all these cheerleaders all weekend. But why was he filming to begin with, if not to do something creepy like that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
But we don't see the aftermath or we don't see what happens immediately. Leaf Garrett brings back the camera, and as they're watching it, we just get this full frontal shot of the fat guy vomiting blood and then falling down dead. And they're like, "Oh, he's dead."
I guess.
He's gone. Uh
Goodbye, Big Cheer.
exactly. So that just leaves four other people: Lucinda Dickey, Leif Garrett, the blonde, and Betsy Russell alive. Uh, as they're going through the camp, they get back into the shed of Buck, and
Yes.
I got really confused by this part. The sheriff enters the room, and then Leif Garrett throws a bear trap on his head and kills him.
Yeah, I like at this point it looked like they were trying to set booby traps, like they were gonna try to barricade themselves into the shed, but none of the traps go off. They just throw the bear trap at whoever walks in. Like that could have been anybody.
Yeah,
That could have been their friend, Big Cheer. Like this poor sheriff. I mean, I guess he got what's coming to him, this peeping Tom cop, but it really came out of nowhere.
it did. It was really weird. Um, and especially because Leif Garrett felt no remorse for what happened. He
No.
just kind of keeps going on with it, which I guess good for him.
He, he just killed a police officer.
Yeah.
I don't care how sleazy he was. He doesn't seem to be bothered by the fact that he's definitely going to jail after throwing a freaking bear trap on someone.
But after killing a sheriff, they all run into the woods where Buck confronts them. But Lucinda Dickey, if we didn't see it happen, at least I don't remember it, she stole the revolver from the dead sheriff and she shoots Buck.
Yeah,
And
like at a glance, for
yeah.
totally unprompted. Did you notice that when Buck Flower died, though, there was a sign behind him that said "No hunting"?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
that was kind of a nice touch.
That's funny. As the forest celebrate surviving the night, they because they think that they got the bad guy with that. They all start drinking. They all leave for some reason out of nowhere is like, "Hey Betsy, let's have sex."
I, it, like up to this point in the movie, people's reactions to the fact that people are being murdered has always been kind of, a little more understated than you would expect from a real person. But this just takes the cake. Like, why are they hanging out at this camp still? People, like, everyone is dead and they're popping champagne and celebrating. Like, who are, who are these people? I mean, we have to suspend some logic. I mean, it's a slasher movie. Everyone, like, teenagers act dumb. Otherwise, the movie wouldn't happen. But this is just way beyond what you'd get from a Friday the 13th, even the worst sequels of Friday the 13th. It's these people are way, way beyond acting like normal slasher movie idiots.
I think the big offense to me is that Leif Garrett's like, "Hey, let's have sex."
Yeah, that now is not the time, you idiot.
Exactly. And Betsy even says that now is not the time. She walks off upset. And Lucinda Dickey goes with her. And Lucinda is now telling Betsy Leif Garrett is the killer.
He's
Uh
been two-timing you this whole time. I saw him do it. Get him.
exactly. She's like whispering in the ear of Betsy Russell. And as they turn a corner, the blonde is dead and Leif Garrett is over the body. And Lucinda forces Betsy to shoot Leif Garrett and kills him.
What were they? Oh, because the blonde, she was. They were like she was in a phone booth,
Yeah.
but she was like the one of the windows was broken out of, it and she was hunched over like the frame of the phone booth. What happened there? Did she go to? Did I just miss a part where she went to go try and
Nope.
call the cops or something? Or like
They don't show it.
so? I mean, I guess that's an edit or a scene that they just cut out, but yeah, they just like hard cut to him standing over the body in the phone booth, and like half a second later, he's getting shot. It's a major whiplash moment.
It is. And then Lucinda, as the cops arrive, Lucinda Dickey starts talking to the police officers and she starts saying that Betsy Russell's the killer. She killed everyone, even Leif Garrett. And it all starts to come together that Lucinda Dickey is actually the arch nemesis of the entire film. She killed everyone and she's framing Betsy Russell. And as Betsy Russell is getting put into the ambulance and she's getting shot up with drugs, we see Lucinda Dickey doing a cheer where she is showing off her amazing dance moves, and she looks very natural doing it.
In the distant background as police cars and ambulances roll away.
Yep. And that's how Cheerleader Camp ends.
Cut the credits. I mean, I'll say this up front. We saw it coming a mile away. I'm sure you did too. Lucinda Dickey, she was obviously the murderer, the way that she is sort of like a hanger on to the crowd the whole time, and all these other obvious red herrings being thrown in, but we never bought it for a second. Like, she was obviously going to be the killer. The only thing that we weren't sure about, and as we talked about, like, we just weren't sure what her motivation would be. But it was just plain old jealousy the whole time. She just wanted to be a cheerleader and couldn't be.
What a unearned ending. I like the idea that Lucinda Dickey wins in the end. I'm not upset about that. I just don't think the movie earns it.
No. I think, because that's kind of a cool idea, is if they made it makes more sense that the mascots were there with the cheerleaders. I like the idea of the kind of like geeky outcast mascots getting revenge on the hoity-toity cheerleader group. That's kind of an interesting idea for like a cheesy slasher movie, but I think that's maybe what they were trying to go for. But it was not well fleshed out enough. Didn't feel earned.
Exactly. A very disappointing film. I think, like you said earlier, this is one of those movies that you saw in the grocery store or like the Blockbuster.
Yeah.
One of the grocery stores that I went to had like a little movie rental place inside of it. That's why I say grocery store.
Yeah. That's why I laughed. It's like, I feel like is that a thing? I mean, growing up, we had Wegmans around us in the Northeast, and it was always an interesting thing. On Friday, we would go to the movie rental part of the grocery store when mom and dad would get food for the weekend, I guess, and that was always a nostalgic thing. But yeah, I definitely remember seeing this among others as kind of like the memorable covers in that horror movie section.
Yep.
What a disappointment.
Finally seeing it, and it's a disappointment. It's a limp noodle. It's a total limp noodle. It was such a limp noodle that it was originally released as, like I said, Bloody Pom Poms, and it did so bad that they gave it a new title. It was only in the movie theaters for a week.
I am actually shocked that this opened in theaters at all. I thought for sure this would have been a direct-to-video.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, I guess it may as well have been if it was only in for a week. They just immediately pulled it because no one was going to see it.
Yep, immediately gone. And it'll be immediately leave my mind after we're done talking about it. This is a 2 out of 5. It's so disappointing.
Yep, I gave it the exact same score. I mean, I think it gets to that 2 because there were a handful of cool makeup effects, like we said, the gardening shears through the back of the neck. There was like one part where they find the body of the bad cheerleader girl, the brunette, and she's kind of like been disemboweled. And I think there's the part where the big fat guy he gets killed, and I think you see like a grass scythe, like a Grim Reaper scythe.
Yeah,
cut him across the stomach, and that looks kind of cool. But aside from that, like there were just, for a slasher movie, we have to talk about this. There's like no kills. I mean, there's like 3, and they're all in the last third of the movie.
Yeah,
it just doesn't. I feel like you can't even call it a slasher movie.
It is. I know, right? I guess what would be the threshold of it being a slasher movie?
It's kind of a weird metric, but I feel like there's maybe like an unspoken minimum for body count.
But or maybe if they strung it more across the film.
I was just gonna say, if you're gonna have fewer kills, you need to spread them out more. You need to have that action, that like suspense killer POV beat every 15-20 minutes, kind of spread throughout the movie, and then maybe have a couple more towards the end to really amp it up. But yeah, it's all loaded at the end of the movie, and the front half is just like, I know we've used this phrase a lot, but it feels like they were trying to make it like boner comedy in the beginning.
Oh yeah,
and then
definitely
slowly move into the slasher thing at the end. And they do both poorly.
100%. It's Yeah, it's a total limp noodle. But what are you gonna do? That's what you get from the 80s horror. Sometimes it's an amazing forgotten lost film, and then other times it's a total limp noodle,
Yep.
and you
So
kind of wonder why you were ever excited for it.
yeah, you get amped up by the cool covers, which I feel like our experience with it is probably what a lot of people had, because I think they got suckered in at the video store. I suspect actually this did really well in rentals because of that like that cover effect where it looks cool and it's got like a goofy kind of like slasher movie premise, and you go in expecting a little bit of a B movie, but you get, you realize at the end that you got.
Oh,
They already
100%.
got your money.
They already got your money. It doesn't matter. They probably spent all of their budget on getting an awesome cover.
Yeah, that they well done, that artist. I wish I. So actually, speaking of, I was going to say, well done. I should go back to the credits and find out who did it. But there were two things in the credits actually that I wanted to mention, to bring to your attention.
Okay.
One, there was a credit for choreography by, and guess who got it? Lucinda Dickey.
Interesting.
Right. So I guess good for them for realizing that she had dance talent, and to have her, to take advantage of that on set. But boy, whatever she choreographed did not come across well, because like I mentioned, all of the cheerleading that happens, like the competition parts and the training parts, it it looks terrible. Even to like an untrained eye like me, like I don't know what is good, but I know that's not it. It was
Yeah.
terrible.
Maybe it's because it's like actors that are doing it,
Oh
so
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
it doesn't come off nearly as good.
I guess it's like, why wouldn't you hire some other dancers to do some of those scenes, and then you just don't have your main characters really do it? I don't know. It's a strange choice, but it was kind of cool to see her getting that credit, because she's probably the only one with any talent behind or in front of the camera in that regard.
Oh, 100%.
The other thing I wanted to point out was the name of the band from that weird like dance social scene.
Yes.
The band's name was Sound of Success, but success was spelled S-U-X. Or sorry, wow, Ek is not a letter. Suksexx.
Oh my god.
Success.
That's horrible.
Oh, so
Sounds
sleazy.
success.
Success.
Let's take a look here. I just googled them really quick. Uh they do come up on sweetsoundtrack.com,
Do
and
they? Oh
yeah.
man. Is it just this movie that they've got a credit in?
Let's see here. Life of Crime and Subway are their songs, so yeah, it looks like it.
I think those. If I remember right, in the credits they were only credited with two songs. I suspected that they were like a local band from wherever they shot this, that they just got to come in and play some of their songs.
They probably thought this was going to be like their big
Their
break
big break,
too.
and then they realized that their shitty band name was holding them back.
Uh,
So you mentioned that you watched this with your wife. What
yep.
did she think of it?
She thought it was super boring.
Oh, so worse. She probably had worse experience than you did then.
Yep.
That's interesting. So the reason I wanted to ask is because Becky, she loves these really kind of tropey 80s slasher movies, and really for her, the more predictable the better. She gave this a 4 out of 5.
Oh my god.
Yeah, she really enjoyed this, and again, I think it was because she likes the predictable 80s slasher tropes. I think like the more she sees of it, the more predictable it is, the more enjoyable and nostalgic it is for her. Which I guess I can understand that. I think that is that word nostalgia. I think that plays in a lot for her, but I think it reminded her a lot of those like those Fear Street novels, and some of like the movies that came later in the slasher genre history, that they were kind of self-aware. They knew that they were predictable and tropey, and kind of played that up a little bit. So I think she liked it for that effect. But very interesting that we had different reactions to this movie, because I feel like it would be universally bad for most people. And I think
yeah.
we're a charitable audience to begin with. Like this genre is our jam, and even we were like, ugh.
Yep. I what was one of the was one of the first movies that we reviewed.
Schizoid. I'm trying to think of what was the first.
It was one of the first slasher films. It was like
Savage
something
Weekend.
weekend. Yeah, Savage
Savage Weekend.
Weekend.
Yeah.
I would say Savage Weekend was better than this.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so too. I think it, I mean, Savage Weekend, I remember looking better. It had that kind of late 70s, early 80s, kind of like grindhouse look to it. This one, as you get later in the 80s, I don't know what happened. Something in cinematography changed where things start to look a little bit too polished.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie would have strangely benefited from looking grungier than it does.
Probably, which is saying something because this was like VHS quality.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you should note that I mean, I don't know about you. I actually looked for a legitimate rental copy through like Amazon or Vudu or something. I could not find it.
I'm not that surprised. I'm
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
pretty sure this is probably one of the ones that is just lost to time.
some kind of yeah, it's in stuck in like licensing hell, and maybe eventually it'll see the light of day on like streaming, but we had to we subsisted on the really probably was like a VHS rip on that someone had posted to YouTube, and it looked like garbage, but not in the way that I was thinking. Like this was just like 480p bad upload garbage.
2.2 million people have watched this copy.
Is that how many views it had?
Yeah.
Oh, oh, people, we all got duped. What are there any interesting comments on this? I
Yeah.
have to believe YouTube comments are usually a gold mine of filth, but
Let's take a look at this. You know what? That's a good idea. Let's read some of these
what does the
comments
internet
here.
public think
Let's
of this
sort
trash
by
show?
top comments. Not the masochists being called inhuman and eating with their animal heads on.
What? Oh, they're talking about the mascot scene.
Yeah. I was laughing at them rapping. Only thing I really liked is how it kept you guessing who the killer was.
Are
I
you
didn't know
kidding
until
me?
the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Are you kidding me? This could
Um,
not have been telegraphed further in advance. They may as well be titled the movie Lucinda Dickey as the killer.
let's see here. 15 minutes and 57-second mark. So this is where the look of the chef from South Park was inspired from.
Oh, Cookie, I guess.
They don't make classics like this anymore. Even the girls looked way sexier and prettier back then.
What a weird thing to say.
Uh, yeah, I know, right? That's always a weird thing. Like, have you ever like listened to a song on YouTube and then look at the comments and it's like, if this reminds you of like 1984, like, and people are just liking the shit out of that comment. It's really weird.
Yeah, really like, I remember seeing them live back in the day. They don't make music like this anymore.
The
I mean,
19-year-olds with receding hairlines get all the girls.
yeah, it's true. We have to talk about what's his name's hair
Leaf
in this.
Garrett.
Yeah, so we were talking about how they usually cast older people as teenagers. He I think it's more so with men in these slasher movies where they're cast way too old. Like he's got his hairline is like on top of his head. He looks like he's 40 something.
Let's take a look here. He was born in 1961 and this movie came out in 1988. He was 27 years old,
Oh
trying to
geez.
pass off as a teenager.
I think he just had bad genes then. He looks way older
Probably.
than that, yeah.
Probably that and drugs.
Drugs, they're a hell of a drug.
Yep. He was a big drug head,
Oh
so I'm
man.
pretty sure that that's what uh you know contributed to him looking old.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. So I guess that one YouTube comment makes me think. And what Becky was thinking her abnormally high score for this movie. I feel like this is one of those movies that probably a lot of people saw as a kid, like when they were like renting videos and like, ooh, we shouldn't see this. It's an R-rated horror movie. We shouldn't be seeing this. Like, I feel like this has a lot of nostalgia value for people who probably saw it as a kid. Their parents like let them rent it from the video store, and they've got good memories. Like they've got good memories of it from being a kid and kind of watching a scary movie on a sleepover. But coming into it fresh, it definitely doesn't hold up. I think that maybe is the difference between people like us who thought it was garbage and people who give it a high score is the nostalgia factor.
Exactly. Well, are you ready for something that has absolutely no nostalgia factor for us?
No.
Let's rewind that clock back from 1988 back to 1984 and watch an Italian post-apocalyptic film, The
Oh
Final
boy.
Executioner, not starring Robert Ginty. I know the last Executioner film we saw had the Gintmeister 5000 in it.
The Gitmeister.
This has a bunch of Italian people in it.
Yay. So what was the last Italian knockoff? Was it Alien
It
Contamination?
was
Was that the
Alien
last one we saw?
Contamination. Yeah.
I think that's a good change of pace. And I think getting back into the canon film library, I think that's a good. I'm cautiously excited for that.
El Ultimo Guerrero. I sound like Rich Evans right now. I can't pronounce.
El Ultimo Guerrero.
After a nuclear holocaust. Wait, what? After a nuclear holocaust, comma, as the rest of society regresses to primitivism.
Welcome to Reading Cast, where we try to read words.
Primitivism? Primitivism? As they
having a stroke right now?
As they regress to being primitivism? Is this a word?
I don't know what you're trying to say to me right now. Is this like the back of the box you're trying to read?
Yeah, a belief in the value of what is simple and unsophisticated. Primitivism. Primitivism, because they're being primitive.
Is that a word?
It is. It's in dictionary.com. So okay. After a nuclear holocaust, comma,
let's start over.
As the rest of society regresses into primitivism, a small, comma, elite in quotes group that has managed to escape radioactive contamination takes it upon itself to exterminate those it sees in quotes unfit, another comma, including certain members of its own groups. This sentence has 1, 2, 3, 4 commas in it.
Major comma splicing going on there. Interesting. Okay, so I think what I got from that is it's post-apocalypse, kind of like I'm expecting like a Mad Max ripoff. And they're killing off the mutants, I'm guessing. Like the dregs of society, I like the nuclear waste mutants. That's my prediction.
Yeah. That's what it seems like.
But geez, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of them myself, but I know that there were a lot of Mad Max ripoffs throughout the 80s. Like they're like, I mean, like horror, I think they were probably really cheap to produce because you just take a crew out to the desert and there's your set, and it's just going to be people walking around the desert for 90 minutes.
This is going to be 20 minutes inside of like a bunker, and then
a warehouse that they dress up or something.
Then like 50, 60 minutes of it being in the desert and in the mountains.
Yeah. I think that's a fair prediction. And we're going to get one semi-interesting action scene in the beginning.
Yes.
And then it's just going to grind to a screeching halt until like the last 10 minutes when it's just going to like freeze frame on an explosion and then end.
Wow. We've already pre-reviewed this.
I was going to say, this poor movie, we're not giving it a fair shake, but we'll be interested to watch it and then come back to what we're saying right now and see how close we got. I'm excited though. I like an Alien Contamination. That made my top 5 for our first 25 episodes or something. Yeah. I think I'm predisposed to liking a lot of these like Italian ripoff movies, the genre ripoff. So we'll see. I'm excited.
Well, I mean, you've already said the quote of the week, but it was so good. Why don't you hit us with it again?
Let's take a listen, shall we?
Bird watching, Sheriff? Oh, shit. You know you keep using them things on your peepers, that way you gonna end up cross-eyed.
Line of duty, pal.
Line of duty. Line of duty my ass. Line of dirty, more like it.
Wow, that was really good. We definitely just listened to it.
Yes,
Line of duty my ass. Line of dirty's more like it.
I love it.
Ah, Buck Flower, you're just like Dick Miller. You are a national treasure. You'll be missed. I'm assuming he's dead.
He is.
That. Okay.
He is dead. Well, If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Give us some constructive criticism on how we can make this podcast more enjoyable to you. You can follow us on YouTube at That's Canon, and you can email us at that'scanon@gmail.com. That's Canon, CANNON @gmail.com. And remember, since we said it,
That's canon.